I like just do some little coding. It will be pretty informal chat. But hey, so the whole goal is to really, like I said, talk about what's the earliest days of DVC, Label Studio, right? And I think what's always the hardest part for founders, especially when you're really early, is you have a project that you might even want to start. You haven't started yet, right? Or you just started, and you want to say, hey, I eventually want to start a company, right? And what's really hard is the 0 to, I don't know, let's say first 1,000 people that really gets to know you. Like this little threshold, because once you go after that, it seems people start to have a lot more word of mouth, right? But this earliest, that's a little elusive, and I think I've seen things gone really well and things that run really poorly. And that's part of the start of study, is just trying to figure out, like, hey, what have people done great? What have you guys done? Because I think both cases, it sounds like you guys done it pretty well. As far as I can tell, things grew fairly fast. So hey, maybe start in Dmitry. Maybe we can start like DVC. Tell
Absolutely, yeah. Happy to share the story.
What did you do to even grow you like a first some level of users? Yeah.
All right, yeah. I think starting is the hardest part in this journey. Let's talk about this starting story with a focus on DevRel. It's kind of like bottom-up DevRel strategy, if you wish. And why it's a good idea, and also I can talk about why it's not, because it seems like now we reach the point when we need to do something differently, but in the very beginning it works really well. And let me talk a bit about this story. So about 4 years ago, started this pet project, DVC, data version control. Like open source, this was the idea. Let's handle this data versioning, data management problem for ML projects for machine learning. Spent a few months to build it. It's another story. How to motivate yourself like a few months by moonlighting and writing software at night time. This was time when I come up with this like everyday coding rules. Like no matter what is happening, like I was coding like every single day. So the fun part starts when it came to the release. Like you need to do something with the release. You have almost no experience. I had some blogging experience, but not like nothing special, just like a few blog posts.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I did launch the project. Launch didn't work well. It was like literally like 2 days preparation. Some blog post, which was actually tutorial, not a blog post. And then result was kind of like below average, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in terms of like users and exposure, it was almost nothing. Just like a couple comments on the issue tracker, so nothing special. So I decided, all right, I need to do something about it. Yeah. And what I started to do, I started blogging and writing about DVC, like the problem, the use cases. It's not easy to do, right? To write a like decent blog post, and also not easy to do to promote the blog post.
Yeah.
I put some effort in the first year, not year, like half a year. I created about like 4 blog posts. Okay. I was a little bit more systematic around like how to promote blog posts, how to put them in Reddit. It works kind of pretty good. Hacker News, it never worked, and like a few more places.
Okay.
So, and this was the foundation for the community. So I was starting getting like more and more users. People start asking like deeper questions about the functionality, about we start speaking about their use cases, mostly on issue tracker. So I applied for a few conferences. I was rejected like almost everywhere except like couple. And in the first like 5 months, I did 1 conference in DC. Yeah, that's it probably in the first half a year. So yeah, however, it was kind of a start. It was not a bad start because we got some users. Some people were start using DVC. Some people start using DVC in production, like actual like work environment. It was something.
Yeah.
And also, what is even more important, it was kind of like a feeling of growth because every month you see more and more and more people. Not a lot, but still kind of you see this positive trend.
Got it. Got it.
So next year we decided to start the company
Yeah.
with Ivan. He was my colleague.
Yeah.
And we put quite a lot of effort to improve our website, blog, and all this kind of environment, online presence, I would say. We start to kind of look more solid. We got this dvc.org domain for 2000, as far as I remember. And at that time, I decided, all right, now I have to be like more systematic about blogging, and I need to put more effort, not blogging, but so kind of marketing, if you wish, like DevRel.
Yeah.
And I spent quite a lot of resources. In this year, I spent, I don't know, maybe like 20% of my time for conferences and blogs and this kind of activities. In this year, I did 10 conferences, as far as I remember.
Wow.
A few blog posts. And what was interesting this year, like something like took off. We start seeing more content from some random people from the internet about DVC, about their use cases, how they use DVC. Some materials from like meetups.
Yeah.
Like some guy in Switzerland is talking about DVC and how it use DVC with R, not even a Python. Like, and it's like, why? All right. So, and first it started from one blog post. I remember it was a blog post from Algorithmia, which was a surprise for me. It's with a kind of like competing company, right? And it was written by Justin. You might know that Justin. Now he's working on a tool company. He like one of the first blog posts was from Algorithmia and Justin, who worked for Algorithmia. It was a funny story. And then more and more and more, you know, like this content. At the end of the year, on that year, I realized that every single month we are having like about like 2-3 blog posts or meetups from like external folks who like not associated with us in any way. While we produce like one blog post at the best. So the community did like a better job on promoting God than we do. So that was kind of like inflection point to my mind.
And how long did that take? Because it sounds like you had a 5-month start period, 2 years, right?
It's 2 years. I would say even more than 2 years, 2.5 in this range.
Wow.
And I think this story it's not unique because like a lot of folks who like did open source, they have done pretty much the same job. I remember I speak with Michel Hashimoto on like True Ventures event because like HashiCorp is one of the true company as well.
Yeah.
And he was saying when they launched one of the products, they have a lot of products, right? Open source product. It was it was Terraform as far as I remember, not the first product. Yeah. He's saying he attended like 14 conferences in a single year.
Wow.
So basically, like every like third week, you like travel somewhere, you fly somewhere, you attend conference, you spend time, you know, you spend your like emotional resources and preparation resources. It's like quite a lot of work.
Yeah.
But they went through this process. They did this before. We briefly talk about this with Isaac from NPM, another true company. He also put some effort to do this stuff. Puppet Lab, we have a really good conversation with Luke, like how they do, like how he did DevRel initially. It was kind of like similar story. It was about like conferences, how to present the content, how to present the value, not the solution, like this kind of discussions.
Very cool.
So
yeah, I guess maybe
yeah,
we'll stop here for now because I want to hear Michael's story too. Like, because I think even you guys are actually in similar space, right? Although you're a more data scientist and yours as well, obviously, but from a different angle. For Michael, actually, I don't even know how you started Label Studio, and because I remember you talked to me a long time ago about how you started, but it sounds like your growth is more accidental when I hear, but you did promote it, right? So what did you do initially? Like what does your timeline look like? And what was like the key things you did to continue to make people kind of know what Stable Studio is?
There is no such thing as an accidental growth, unfortunately. I would love to get that. But yeah, we have a pretty different story, I would say, because we never did any conferences. I think I have done one of them, but nothing beyond that. And I think the conferences is still something that we would do moving forward. But initially, if speaking about the community, the Label Studio, the project itself, it's almost 2 years old by now. But when we were starting the community, I remember pretty well our 0 to 100 users, and that was all me preaching people to join after I would have like a product discovery call with somebody. So I was literally reaching out to people, to data scientists on LinkedIn, trying to get them on a call and ask them about, hey, are you experiencing the same problem that we had? Yes or no? Please join the Slack. We may have something for you. I'm gonna send you a link. Please join, please join. So, and I was doing that, hustling basically like all day long. Then hundreds, and I would say like to get into 1,000 was a lot about the product itself, because there was a value that resonated with people, and the product was taken off a little bit, and people were just joining our Slack so that they could get a support. So it was more like a support forum. Hey, I cannot do X. Hey, there is a bug here. There is a bug there. And we instrumented also the growth of the community by putting inside the product some of the references to join the community. So one of the things there, which is pretty easy if you're building a web app, you get an error, the user gets an error, and you show them, hey, join our Slack, we can help you out, right? That's a perfect time to get users to join because they're experiencing the error, they need help. You're offering them that in the same moment, right?
Yeah.
And we were putting a lot of those things kind of around those moments where it's easier to get users' attention and ask them to join, right? Yeah. And that was kind of get into 1,000. It went along with the product growth. And then after that, after the 1,000, yeah, it's like pretty much as Dmitry shared, like you get a momentum, and now people are starting writing about you. Now you're becoming more popular, and people just visiting more your website more often, and you just capture them basically with the same methods that you implemented into your initial phase.
Yeah.
So
and how? Because yeah, going back to the very first step. The first step is outreach on random data scientists, join my Slack. But then what do you do with them at your Slack? Like
you try to build relationship. You try to build a relationship. Okay. That's the key everywhere, right? It's not only about your community, it's about everything. You try to build a relationship, and you better try to build a relationship in like a natural way, and you have to be curious about like them, right? And how to help them. So I think this is important, like the how you look at that, like what is your standpoint, how are you looking at that. So, and then yeah, it's all about building a relationship, trying to help out as much as you can. I mean, you cannot really, that doesn't scale obviously, right? So you can do that only on the initial phase, but on the initial phase you can definitely do that.
And so do you talk to them one-on-one on each one of them? And
not each one of them, but most of them. Some of them I even met when they were in California area.
oh wow.
And some of them I'm still in contact with, just because, for example, one of the guys, he started a startup that took Label Studio and embedded Label Studio as their data labeling tool inside their products, right? So it was kind of very interesting, kind of how that evolves moving forward.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why did you don't do content? Because I think that sounds like the probably more obvious thing, you know.
So no, we started doing content, but like way later. So we just basically started doing content for the last 6 months, like 5 months even. And we are still kind of starting to build the content engine at the moment.
Yeah.
And I do agree that the content is actually, it's a lot of success I have seen with other communities was based on the content and how they promote that and how they posted it to Reddit, Hacker News. By the way, Dmitry, I share your pain with no success on the Hacker News. So we never had any as well.
No, we did some, but later. And it was usually not our effort. It was effort from some, like, I don't know,
maybe it's still coming. Maybe it's still coming for us. So yeah. And I think, look, like I think it's all about also, you have to play to your own strength, right?
Yeah.
If you're like writing content and kind of you can produce a really high quality content, perfect. Go for it. That's your strength, right? For us, it was just different. For me, it was always kind of having a conversation and trying to figure out the pain and kind of build a relationship going that way. So.
Interesting. Got it. And so, Dmitry, you don't have a channel, right? Or Slack or anything like that?
No, we have Discord, and it's
Discord.
super active. Yeah, it's like a Slack, but for more, I don't know, geeky audience.
Yeah, I see. And did you do that from day one, or?
No. We introduced it later, and I wish we introduced it a bit, like maybe like 1 year before. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. So, just summarizing, right? Michael, you're much more like, basically like an inside salesperson, like
it's like top down, bottom up.
Sales, I'll make you successful, right? And yours is trying to like just establish the concept. Because I think maybe it's because of the space, right? Because DVC was a new concept. I don't think it was anybody even knew they would take a version control for their data. Where labeling is, there are other folks out there already. So it wasn't like a new concept, right?
It's as old as the world is.
I don't know if this is important, like new concept, not new concept. Like, I think you just need, what you need to know, what you need to have, it's attention for people who does care. And then it's just a matter of the strategy. Like, do you like find the people and talk with them, or just spread the word and they will find you? I think it's like not important from this point of view. The question is like how to get the critical mass of people.
Got it. I see.
And by the way, we do like top down right now, right? It's like as a part of our go-to-market initiatives. Right now, I'm having like tons of these meetings with customers, but usually it's within a kind of selling context, right? Not open source context.
Yeah. And so, did your outreach and your content? I know you have a few out there, right? And one thing I think a lot of people are trying to do is also figuring out like what is the right thing to sell. I guess what is the right thing to say. Did it take any experimentation for both of you? Like even though it's an outreach message, hey, what I'm going to sell for you, or is it a content? Did everything just kind of works, and you just keep adding more, or you actually had an experiment of what actually could?
Like, are you talking about like what to sell in terms of like what the enterprises will pay, or
no, selling the community, the open source project? Honestly, like
that's
not even the product. Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. Like, I mean, there's like content production is kind of like an art, right? You should have. It's like hard to predict, but you still have some feeling that this blog post has a chance for success, and this blog post very unlikely will be successful. So it's kind of like not easy to predict, but yeah, you try, you work, and sometimes it works really well.
I see. So do you tune your content over time, or just like if it's an art, just like whatever I feel like today, that could work. Is that how it works for you, or how do you even decide what to write every month or so?
So right now I don't do this. I did this like more before, right?
Yeah.
But then like you just look at the problem from different angles, from different point of view, right? How people, from example, with with deep learning use cases, well, should look at this problem, right? Because deep learning wasn't anything like back then, like 3 years ago. I mean, relatively new.
Yeah.
In the industry, or like how about like our users, like who use like not Python environment, like let's try to write about them. And this blog post surprisingly did like really well because like our community is like very like concentrated. It's not like Python, which is like everywhere.
Yeah.
Then you just try to work with a different like on conceptual level, right? Not in technology, but on conceptual level, it's a different idea. Yeah, I can say I was not like too systematic about this, at least at that time, back then.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, what you can also do if you do have those first 100, 200, 500 users inside your community, you can talk to some of them, and you would be able to get a lot of insights from them, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's also like from the content perspective, the expectation should be that for like 80% of your content that you produce is going to be very low traffic, but then for 20%, some of those are going to be big winners, and that's where you're going to be collecting all the traffic. So you just keep rolling.
Yeah, sounds like a VC portfolio.
It's a good one actually, like 80 to 20. It's not bad.
Yeah, I love that. But it is, I guess, intriguing, right? Because a lot of people, when they start writing content, it sounds easy, just write blog posts. But then what do you write? Like a lot of people actually ask that question to me, and then it's like, it becomes very vague. Because I think it's when you just start, right? You usually start with solving some of your own problem or something you observe in a small, very limited, viewpoints, right? And you're hoping to really get a lot more people's attention.
Right.
But like, I guess, well, Michael, back into your like outreach, do you just outreach to any data scientists? Anyone that you saw that was
no. So you always filter and tune, right? First of all, you just send a message to the world out there. Whatever response you get, you're happy for that, and you treasure that response, right? But after you're having that conversation, you can calibrate. Okay, so that profile, it seems like they don't have the problem that you're actually solving for. Okay, so we can not target that, right? And out of like thousands emails or LinkedIn messages sent, you would have like 10, 20 conversations, and based on those, you would be able to calibrate. And if some of those were good, or what's also interesting that if those conversations are not going into the direction that you think they would go, you can also ask people to help you out by just asking, do you think somebody would have this problem, right? And like, you always want to ask for that, and people would help you navigate, right? And then you calibrate who you want to target and who you want to reach out. So, and that's basically like a basic exercise in building your ICP, more or less, right, for your product. And I think to your point with the content strategy, because like we have invested quite a lot of time now just building our content strategy moving forwards. And it takes a lot of time to understand what you want to really write about, and especially if you want to invest some budget into that and like resources into that, right? And you have to be also strategic, right? Because there are different ways you can write the content that would be very popular, but the audience for that content would not be the one that you're actually looking for from the strategic perspective. Or you can write for the audience that would be way less, but it would be more interesting to get them as a users or potentially further as a customers, right?
Got it. So, I see. Yeah. So Dmitry, one thing I always remember, right? And I think a lot of open source projects do this, but it's always interesting. People do it in various time in their timeline is trying to also send out emails of summaries of what people are talking about around DVC, right? Like I remember like DVC heartbeat, you know,
Oh yeah.
like that nature, right? Did that help at all? And when do you start doing that? You know?
You mean Heartbeat?
Yeah.
Well, Heartbeat. So okay, let me just introduce the Heartbeat a bit. Here, Heartbeat is a result of our discussions with users, which we summarize and publish as a blog post on a monthly basis. So if you go to our website, you will see like monthly Heartbeat. Heartbeat first and second is Community Jam. We have like a two publication in a regular basis on the website. This is actually like just a workaround because a lot of discussions is happening kind of under the surface. You don't see this. For example, our Slack/Discord channel, right? And Jam is just a way how to extract this information and put on the internet, on the open internet. In ideal world, it should happen just automatically, but the world is not ideal, so we need to put some extra effort. Like how much value it gives, on a constant base, of course it gives value, but I couldn't say it's like something like it's a game changer. I couldn't say that.
I see that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Got it. Cool. And so, you know,
also what's interesting because you're basically what you're trying to do there as well is there are so much conversations going on within the community that are not searchable on the internet.
Yes,
and that is a problem.
The Heartbeat source.
Yeah. I was actually thinking even about the product that they may build for Slack at some point that would just extract and make those blog posts automatic or something like that, so that it becomes searchable.
Good idea.
Such an easy idea.
Yeah,
it's easy, but like how we can do this? Because on Slack or Discord, you have a conversation like short sentence, short answer, long sentence. Yeah. Then this is my like log with or like dump or it's
right.
What you actually need like a small summary. Okay, that's a problem. That's a solution.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's the idea is easy. The implementation is complex.
Yeah, the implementation.
Yeah, that's an intriguing idea for somebody willing to go after this space. And so, moving forward a little bit, there's always this point, okay, I bootstrapped a lot of content. I went to a lot of conferences. I keep cold calling people and people like my product, I tune it. I can't do this on my own anymore, right? I'm going to start to hire somebody, And so this somebody, people usually call like evangelists or sometimes call, whatever name here, community manager, advocate, whatever that is. It's so elusive, especially when are small. Right, because I don't think this person will just do one thing. So what do you guys decide? When did you actually hire your first, whoever this person is, to help you manage some side of this? And what did that person even? But how do you find this person? When you decide to hire, and what do they do, in general?
Yeah. So for us, we hired when I think we had 1,500 people on our Slack channel, something like that. What was really not easy to find, just because it's not easy to find people who would join the early stage startup, as we all know, who understands the kind of the stage that you're at, and that would be able to run the function and wear a lot of different hats, as you mentioned, right? So but we were lucky with getting Michael, who is running the community right now. So, and he's doing a lot of other things as well. Besides just running the community, he's doing some marketing. He's also publishing the newsletter at the moment. So many things. But I do think it depends on like how you think about community being like part of your, is it like the pillar, one of the pillars that's going to be fundamental to your business? If that is, like, look at the DBT, for example, right? For this type of, if you're building this type of community and you're basing your company on top of that, then getting somebody to help you out managing the community as early as possible, I think well, it might be one of your first hires that you make, right? So I think it like when to make that hire really depends on the how you're thinking about the community in a strategic way, right? Finding the right person, that's never easy, and I don't have like really good advice there. We just get lucky with that.
How do you get lucky? I guess maybe you can share that.
So we get lucky because we were looking for a while. We had a few conversations, and then Michael, he was introduced to us by I think it was somebody who worked with somebody from our investment team. And so it was like a reference, and then he was doing completely other thing in the moment, and we just approached him and we're like, hey, we need help managing that all. Like, we cannot do that ourselves anymore. It's like you wake up and there is like this nonstop stream of messages on Slack channel, and they're all asking you for support, and you're like, oh my god, what am I going to do with that? So you basically start spending most of your days managing all of that. For us, that was a kind of point. Okay, we cannot do that ourselves anymore. We need somebody to help us, right?
Okay, nice.
So we actually made a little bit different decision. We also had this problem, like there is such huge stream of questions, problems on the support channel, on our Discord channel, and as well as issue tracker. And our decision was, all right, let's make engineers responsible for this. They should be in a contact with the users. And in the first year, so this is how it works. So the engineering team was responsible for all the support stuff. Of course, at some point they implemented this kind of rotation stuff, kind of on-call duty on support channels. But so far, our engineers are responsible for the kind of first line communication with the customers, and it's great because they're having like so many like feedback from the community. They understand product well, like way better because of that. And today, we have no problem with fulfilling roadmap. Like engineers can fulfill roadmap 100%. Or even more, and my job is usually like push top level requirements, like strategic requirements, or maybe cross product requirements to the roadmap. Otherwise, they're kind of happy with not happy, but they have enough feedback from the community. So this, that's about the community. The content is a little bit different. And for us, when we are talking about community developer advocate, like it's kind of like part of the company culture. It's part of the company culture in the sense of engineers who are talking with the customers directly, engineers who are managing issues, issue trackers, and other channels, for example, emails from users. And content only just a small part of the story. Not small part. It's important part, but it's only it's only a part, right? And people for developer advocates, they're responsible for this particular part, right? For content. How we hire the first person? We knew that we need someone who will be helping with this, and we kind of I was vaguely exploring like who we should hire. I had like a few conversations with different like types of people. I got one interesting recommendation from someone from, I don't remember, from Prisma, I think. And the person was saying, you should take a closer look at PhDs, because PhDs are really good at teaching. They like to teach, they like to speak with people, and they can produce, and they like can concentrate, they can produce like content, they can produce like good ideas.
Interesting.
So, and I was kind of had this idea in mind. Usually we don't kind of take too much attention towards like degrees, right? In the industry. But I was thinking, yes, actually, this is kind of a good profile. Someone who spent in academia some time and probably happy about content, creating the content, writing, teaching, and all the stuff. So yeah, and we end up hiring one PhD. She just graduated from Washington University, and she joined, start like working with our products. I would say onboarding process, of course, is crucial, right? For like almost any position, but for not engineering position, it's not. I mean, it was at least new for me. And for many folks in our company, but we put some effort. We help to understand our product, our problems, and it works very well. So we have like content on a regular basis. Then we hired 2 more people, like one community manager and one another dev advocate. So community manager is responsible for Heartbeat. It's kind of like a people stories about company and products. And another one, Militia, she's responsible for Community Jam. It's about more technical details.
So tutorials and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and conferences. So Militia is doing, I don't remember the number. It's like around 10 conferences from September up to December. So this is her schedule. All virtual, of course.
Yeah, no more flying, booking hotels, but interesting. And so you hire these people. Yeah, I remember L, right? The first one.
Yeah.
And so the next one was the community manager, right? To kind of help
Yeah.
as well. I see. And then the advocate.
Yeah.
Interesting. And because before that was just you and Ivan and some engineers doing the conferencing, right?
Engineers did conferences, not a lot, but some of engineers were speaking, we were helping them. So it also works really well. It's mostly like about motivation and like, if someone likes to speak, like it's good to help.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So Michael, do you have the same sort of setup right now too, or is Michael the point person, everything? It looks like so, at least from the slide.
No. So we have pretty much the same setup, so that engineers are helping the users. Just because it's a fairly technical product, so engineers, they usually know the best how to help out. So from that standpoint, it's pretty much the same setup. Michael, he's doing more of the management work, just making sure like that like everything that outside of actual messaging happens. He's also organizing the webinars and doing things like that. So I think it's pretty much the same, or at least similar setup that we've got.
Nice, got it.
Yeah,
cool. So I think I think this is great because I think we cover it's really like the earliest stage, and that's where the focus is. I don't know. I think it will be a fun experiment to even like ask, hey, what if you start this completely from scratch again? Back to 2-3 years ago, would you do exactly the same? Or like basically, like what would you tell somebody that's actually going to start a new open source project-based company? And this is really early, maybe just barely push their code out. People may not have, nobody knows it, or maybe just one or single digit people. Where would you recommend them to start from scratch?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting experiment. Okay, let me put it this way. Right now, one of my challenges is to kind of transition out from these activities because I have like too many stuff to do, right? It's like a product, which is like constant, like source of like, how to say, it has to be like priority number 0. So product, go to market, some engineering related stuff, right? And I really like to kind of transition a bit more from the DevRel. And I wish we have some leaders who can take this like function. And I won't be spending like less time. I wish I hired some leaders before, even like earlier. What is a good time to do this? I don't know, but probably like yesterday, right? Last year maybe.
Yeah.
But definitely not first year, probably not the second year.
I see. I'm asking actually from the very beginning. Like if you have another friend starting a new open source project, right? They're trying to grow their community from day one. Would you recommend them doing exactly the same path you did? Put out content, slowly.
I think
2021.
yeah. It depends on the product, right? Like I really like strategy from Michael when he did like kind of top down approach. It like helps build connection like faster, right? For us, it takes like a year plus to build like a strong connection. However, our scale was probably like a bit bigger because of nature of the content. But yeah, I would at least I would start doing the same, and then see how it goes, how fast I can jump to top down, and how fast I should hire a leader for this function.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
But I would do the first days, first year or two.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's hard to give a generic advice, right? Because as I said, you want to play to your strengths, always play to your strengths. So identify what you're really good at and try to base your strategy around that. And I would if like doing that again, I would just you would never do the same in the same way, right? Just because you have you had all these learnings.
Yeah.
So whatever that was slipping through the cracks before because you were not paying attention, because you were not you didn't have that knowledge at the moment.
Yeah.
Now you have that. So it would not be slipping through the cracks. So basically I would still be doing the cold outreach. I would be probably doing a little bit more of content early on. I would be connecting all those things into the ecosystem, and I would making sure that like nothing slips away, right?
What kind of thing slips away? Yeah.
Like sometimes you got like your 100 users in Slack, and you want to keep them engaged, but at some point sometimes you forget that, or sometimes your focus is elsewhere. Yeah, don't do that. Always always pay attention. So make sure that like things are automated when they need to be automated. So don't let anything slip away, because things compound. And there is just this compound motion over the time that builds you something that is of value and that is big enough. So
I see.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I think this is why you need like a good leader, because when you for some reasons change your focus from one function to another function, like months to like a quarter, you need to make sure like it won't break apart in the 3 months.
Yeah.
That's really important. Cool. Hey, Cole, any questions from your side? I know you've been sitting here for a while. We only have like 4 of us, so.
Well, I'm sort of in that early stage 1 to 5 users that we have sort of Slack connections open directly, and we'll ping them with ideas when they know that those ideas fall under their domain. We're working in like a very high integrations space. So as a part of being very small, it includes a very large overhead to adopt another user, because they're like, oh, we're using technology X over here. And we're like, okay, you're the first person using technology X. Let's build technology X for our work, kind of like a workflow platform and a document editor, which is what I am working on the design development for. So I'm in that very early stage. I find it very interesting talking about that very early community. I'm also a co-organizer growing the Rust East Coast community group, which is a lot larger because I was able to sort of like inherit that a little easier. So that started out with like 1,000 people in just a meetup.com group. And we're seeing a very similar experience where there's a drop off of people being engaged, and there's not as much sort of like bouncing off of each other ideas until we actually have those events that come up, and then people are like, oh, okay, let's, we get the email through meetup.com. I check Rust East Coast, Discord. etc. But yeah, it's very interesting to sort of hear both your two different approaches. I definitely see that like playing to strengths. I don't feel like I've been a strong content writer, but a fairly strong community engagement. So one of the questions that came up to while you were describing your experience, Michael, was at what point does your community start to meet each other versus
It's
just
a really
meeting
good
you?
question. Yeah, it's a really good question. To be honest, we are still solving for that. And the way we're trying to solve that, because the nature how the community initiate like this 100 to 1,000, it was product oriented. People needed help with the product because they were kind of like not figuring out things on their own, and it would, if the nature of your community from that standpoint becomes product oriented, they will be always coming to you and asking you for help around the product. And right now we are slowly but surely trying to change that from being product oriented to be more of a problem oriented. Because when you do problem oriented, then they suddenly have something to share between each other and something to talk between each other, right? And at that point they start to, we're starting to see even people who are kind of more experienced users, they're helping other users now. And we are very excited for that. But I don't think that we would see a lot of that moving forwards from the product perspective. And we just want to introduce the problem oriented aspects into the community and basically let the community talk with each other about the problem statements, right? So,
and how do you see that? Do you ask questions direct, like, hey, how are you solving, I don't know, labeling right now? Or
no, it's like, yeah, it's like there are so many things to talk about in the ML world, right? It's like you can do the webinar based on some, I know, some technology like active learning that would help you label your data set faster. You can talk about, oh, you got labeling done, you build a model, now we want to deploy that into production. Let's talk about that, right? It's a community of data scientists, and there are so many steps in the pipeline, right? So I kind of want to introduce those topics into the community. So we are just starting kind of moving into that direction.
Yeah, I like this idea of like being problem oriented rather than product oriented. One of the challenges in the support channels when people interact with the open source community, you don't see the whole picture. You don't understand why a person is asking about like fixing this bug, or why the person think it's a bug, right? But when you like, or maybe he asking some features, and it seems like, oh, it's easy to implement, why don't we implement? But right question would be like, why do we need this? Maybe you're doing something wrong. And right now, when we work more and more with the customers, with kind of like, you know, with in companies like contracts and all the stuff, this area is a better source for like understanding, but bigger picture, because you understand motivation, like why people doing this stuff, what kind of problems they're facing. And we kind of prioritize this feedback from enterprises, not because they pay us, but while others don't, but mostly because we see like whole picture. And we understand why this problem needs to be solved. While in open source community, sometimes you don't understand why.
Hey folks, sorry I got here so late. I just saw the topic scroll by, and I was like, wow, this is a really interesting topic, but it started 50 minutes ago. So, you know, I just, by way of introduction, I work at Asserto, which is an authorization API for developers. And we're also essentially bootstrapping in the open source community, in an open source community called OPA, which is a general purpose decision engine sponsored by the CNCF. And we're, you know, it's interesting because we, initially, we were very well aware that we didn't want to just kind of come in and build commercial products on top of an existing open source ecosystem that's kind of like in bad form. We wanted to figure out how to contribute back to the community. And we're in the process of kind of building a tool chain for OPA that kind of allows you to deal with policies the same way that you deal with Docker containers. And one of the things that we're kind of interested in is kind of that cross linkage between the Docker ecosystem or OCI v2 ecosystem and and the OPA ecosystem. And like I'm wondering if any of you folks have kind of like tried to do something like that, and how best to go about kind of orchestrating something like this. We've already started to talk to the principal in OPA, Styra. They seem to be like supportive, but at the same time they don't think it's like gonna set the world on fire, so to speak. Otherwise it would have done it already. And then on the OCI ecosystem, we're just kind of starting to make inroads through the CNCF brass, but kind of like being able to set up something like this where it doesn't feel like we're stepping on anybody's toes, but we're honestly trying to add value to both ecosystems.
I know Styra somewhat well, so it sounds complicated, to be honest. And it's, from my perspective, complicated just because they're like, Styra is a Series B company, right? So like their community is still not as large. So when you're saying that you don't want to kind of step on their toes, it's it feels like it's going to be complicated. But I know it's I don't think that I have kind of any ideas like from the top of my head right now. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have some experience with this. I personally, we don't have such kind of experience. However, there are some companies that are trying to monetize DVC like outside of us. So we're kind of in similar situation, but in an opposite side. What we see so far is, first of all, I don't see like a big successes on those companies, right, who are trying to monetize on our open source. And my belief, the reason is they are not contributing to community, and community don't don't feel that those people are driver of the community. Those people are like giving like value. They understand they just kind of build business like outside without like giving back to the community. I guess this is one of the reasons why they kind of not having like enough traction.
Yeah, that's definitely the anti-pattern that we're trying to avoid here, right? Like
exactly. My point is you should contribute to community. You should probably contribute to the code base. You should find a way how to not. I don't know if it's possible, but you might find a way how to work on the ecosystem together and even monetize the ecosystem together without like a direct conflict. It might be possible. In case with the company I'm talking about, it's probably not, but who knows? Maybe it works with you.
That's at least our hypothesis, is when we look at what Styra is doing, we also know them pretty well. We share a fence with them in the sense that we're both collaborating upstream on OPA. We are landing PRs upstream, of course, on the core engine, but their primary use case is infrastructure, Kubernetes admission controllers. Our primary use case is application authorization, which is not like something that they would never do. It's just not like the focus area. And so, at least the hypothesis is that, like the CNCF is meant to kind of bring multiple vendors together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? Like, so with Kubernetes, it worked, but with other projects, it's less so. And so, we're still trying to figure out whether it's going to work or not. But I guess the, kind of the particular question is around, how to approach it in a way that, hopefully like doesn't, jeopardize any existing relationship, but also, tries to kind of build cross leverage between different pieces of the Kubernetes community. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know one example which might be. Okay, I'm not 100% sure, but I had a discussion with the company Data Band, as far as I remember. It's kind of like Airflow, some stuff on top of Airflow. However, they built something like new and a little bit different on top of this. And I believe they don't, at least like based on my understanding from like a previous year, they don't compete, they more kind of bring value to the ecosystem. In this sense, it might be like a good business when like both of the companies help to the ecosystem, help to the community. Yeah, I think if you find this kind of dynamic, if you find this type of collaboration, that will be like win-win for both.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I guess just as a general question, do you guys collaborate with other open source communities? Like DVC working with some others, and do you do any sort of like activities or content, or what does collaboration look like?
We have done some partner webinars with Great Expectations. We've done some partner content with Pachyderm. So we do some, and I think it's if it's a good fit between two communities, and you put effort, you just need to make sure that you put effort from both sides to promote that type of partnership and just do the like marketing blast with whatever content you create. I think there can be value with that. But I from my experience, you just have to be careful what you pick, because you can spend your resources on doing that, and then it turns out that your communities, they actually don't care about each other, and the products that you're building, they don't care about the other products. So you just have to be careful about what you pick for that. Yeah.
We don't do this intentionally. However, our customers do a lot. You can find a lot of the blog post DVC with something, Streamlit DVC with, it's one of the recent. We had a meetup like a couple of weeks ago, and a person was talking about like how to marry DVC with Streamlit. DVC plus MLflow DVC plus weight and biases DVC plus blah blah blah, and like this kind of content. In terms of collaboration between the companies, we have done some, but to my mind, you need to have like a good reason. You need to have like a very clear use case when it gives value. Otherwise, it's more like time wasting than like a value. Just ask, I don't know, like you will get a couple tweets, but like, so what? It's like if you don't see like how it provides value for users, like no reason to do this.
Cool. I think we're out of time. So I'll make this available. At least like get you guys sign off before, just like, because I think I'll just post on YouTube at least. That was it. I don't think you share any secretive, sensitive information. But hey, Amri, I guess you should definitely check it out. It talks about the earliest days of how they've grew their communities. To me, it's really enlightening. Yeah, for sure. I'm really sorry that I missed that. No problem. Yeah. Didn't know about it until I guess 50 minutes before after it started. So much. Yeah. No lots of apologies for that. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks to all you guys. Thanks a lot, Dmitry, Michael. Hey, you two should get to know each other if you don't know each other. I don't know if you two actually know each other or not, but
I know Nick pretty well from Label Studio.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Go for you are awesome. So, all right, guys, I'll let you guys go. Thanks for coming.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, team, for having us.
Yeah.
Take care.
See you guys.
Great to be here.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.